Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you all kindly for joining me. This is Tuesday. It's August 7th, 2024. It was quite the day yesterday. Monday, we had the markets all kind of crashy, and then squishy, a little bit more like it, pulled right out of it. So we've got a few things that I wanted to go over. It's getting close to market time, so I'm going to be quick about this. We've got the MMRI is rising again as far as the risk level, 245.2. So with this, we are keeping an eye, of course, on the relative strength of the dollar's main mover here, and then the 10-year yield. I want to go over a few more things on this, but first, the fear greed index. Look at that, is at 16. We are in extreme fear territory. So, a lot of people stretching out with this, and a lot of very interesting feedback. So, I hope that nobody shorted the market yesterday. We did talk about that a bit because it just looked like it was overrun. This did not have the hallmarks of being the big crash that everybody's talking about. Don't know what else to call it. Yeah, it was a little more squishy. So with this, just a bit of correction, but I want to look forward to a few things. First, we're going to keep an eye on the indicators, namely the 10-year yield and the relative strength of the dollar. Now, what I want to bring up is the Fed has not cut interest rates, yet we were above 5%, and now we're at 3.845. So this begs the question, do they actually need to cut rates? Because they're easing in different ways. So, as I said, I think they're going to stick to their guns. There was a lot of talk about an emergency Fed meeting, possibly, and that they would do an emergency rate cut. And then people were coming out with ridiculous amounts again, saying that they might cut, I heard even 1%, which is not going to happen. That would shock the markets the other direction. You have to be very careful with these. Jerome Powell knows this. That's why they manage the markets more with their words and what they say they're going to do than actually cutting rates. Because as I said, we've got 3.845 right now. It's come down from over 5, and they have not cut rates yet. So just want you to pay attention to that because everybody seems so focused on whether they're going to cut rates. They're missing the big picture. Okay, so going to cryptocurrency really quickly. We've got Bitcoin is up about 55 again, almost at the 56,000 level. So that 52 was very brief. There was a wick down that went below, but it didn't last there long. I don't know anybody that caught that by very shallow. And it stayed above that 52,000 level strength. Now, could it go down again? It's always possible, especially looking forward to what is going to happen. So with this, we've got the others basically gaining some strength. So moving over to stocks really quickly, they are still in the red. We've got the VIX volatility index and gold and oil are all up. Now I know few people played the VIX. To me, congratulations to you if you can make that work. It is mean reverting by design. The VIX is basically an average. So while it may move out of the norms for a short period of time, it's always going to come back to the average by the very nature of what it is. So with this, we've got gold almost at the 24,50 level. Pardon me. So it's got some strength going on. And it wasn't really that long ago that we were looking at 2000. So that we're looking at oil is up because the tensions in the Middle East, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So with this overall, $6.4 trillion stock wipeout. Some people are talking about, oh, this is the great unwind. It is not yet. Could it be they're trying to make it happen slower? I don't know. However, it's missing a few hallmarks in my book. First off, the divergences, as I was speaking about a few of them, there were some discrepancies between the dollar and the 10-year and the way that they were moving. Secondly, the bigger macro picture is that United States elections or selections, whatever you want to call the event that is going to occur in November, is going to manage these markets until then. Nothing severe is going to be allowed to happen. And I've got my thoughts on what happened with the Japanese yen carry that we spoke about yesterday. I think they're basically bracing it a bit and using the Korean stock market, the Kospi, as well as their currency. So they're trying to spread the shock out, if you will, rather than letting it fall on its own. They're kind of spreading it out. So, but it's still in trouble. And I've got to tell you, watching the yen is watching the failure of a currency. It is dying. So it is the first Western currency. If you haven't heard me say this before, the dollar will go a bit differently. However, when we are watching either the euro or one of the other Western currencies go down, will have a lot of similarities. So right now, sentiment basically between confidence and confusion. There was so much money that moved. Basically, a lot of people that have no idea what happened because they're not paying attention to a macro. They're just looking at the daily moves, if that are the short moves. And I've been called out so many times of why I bother looking at what the Federal Reserve is doing or any of this other stuff, because I just day traders. But when you look at the overall movement, what's going to influence it, you want to know and not be caught by surprise. That way you can know whether your levels are more likely to hold. It helps your probabilities. So I hope that helps somebody out there. I'd also like to thank you all for being here. I hope that going over this stuff helps you if you're a trader, even if you aren't. I just hope that it's helpful. So, with the stocks right now, pre market, as I said, still a bit red, but interestingly, the futures are saying that there's a bit of green in there. So, is still looking for a bit of strength. I'm looking at chop and volatility, it looks like. However, it's not going to be, doesn't look like we're looking at a crash mode to continue. So, just a reminder, fear, major fear, which is what we're in right now, extreme fear brings opportunity. And as I said, the markets will be managed until November. It's calendar of earnings. Today, going over the trade deficits coming out in a few minutes. Actually, I'm running late today for multiple reasons. However, we've got consumer credit coming out tomorrow, but not really anything major. So, what we're watching is if the Fed presidents come out to speak because they want to keep this market managed. Secondly, stock movers will be stock specific. Most of the larger ones have already reported the Mag 7, so to speak. But if you are trading, some of these stocks were back to stock specific movers. So, larger thing that we are watching now, the longest inverted yield curve in US history may end soon. What it means for stocks? Well, I'll tell you if that yield curve uninverts, which is what we're looking at, that would be the start, basically, of the recession. It would start with a boost at first, actually, in equities as the cash begins to move, and then they would start feeling the pain as everything begins to sell off. So, I hope that's a good enough explanation. So, as I was saying, South Korea's inflation now notably picking up, clouding their rate cut outlook. Now, this is what I was saying. In the back end, with all of these central banks, they are moving together. They are collaborating despite what they tell you. And they basically, it looks like South Korea has been chosen to take a part of that hit. So who knows what they've promised them in return. With this, I'm always talking about your data and how important it is. It's worth money in the black market. There was one of the largest data breaches just happened. 2.9 billion people, full names, addresses, and social security numbers. Now, here's the kicker: the company that was hacked is a data company. So they are charged with storing people's data. So if they got hacked and all of this data is out here now, who can you trust? Basically, nobody. So just give you that short answer. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about is Chevron. So Chevron, big oil, deciding to move out of California, going to Texas. They've been in California over 140 years. And the CEO said directly it's not about politics, but we believe that California has a number of policies that raise costs, hurt consumers, and that discourage investment. It's a move about what's good for the company to compete and perform. And I agree. They have become very business, very unfriendly to business, high taxation and lower moves. And finally, you're going to hear about this more, but I'd like to bring up the back end of this. Several US troops injured in a rocket attack in Iraq. So, two things on this. Number one, Iraq is back. Why? The biggest question no one is asking. We are technically not at war in the United States. It is still supposed to take an act of Congress to declare war. So, since we are not at war, that changes the scope of what is able to do. However, they are talking about these are all basically an attack after the assassination that happened, the top leader of Hamas in Iran. And now Israel is talking about preemptive strikes. They're talking about nuclear, building bunkers, and all kinds of uh, in depth garbage that doesn't need to be happening. However, the reason I bring this up is because if the management of the markets fails, they need to bring in, at all costs, their solution. This is going to lead to the digital ID and the complete control. And through this, basically, the currency is a large part of that. So, converting that currency and changing the system, the way that it runs. This is important to know because you have to be, this is what we're trying to prepare for. And if you're new, stick around. We'll tell you more specifics on this. However, basically stacking precious metals and other assets because the currency will eventually go down. So, with this though, I'd like to bring this up because I want people to be careful because they can be pushed to create another false flag event. It's a little bit ripe for it. They don't think that we can wait until November and keep things basically managed as they are. For now, it's looking okay. However, if it seems like that gets out of hand, wouldn't put anything past them. So I just want to bring that up to you. Uh, Stay aware and also consider joining our Discord discussion group. There's a link in the description, or at least in the last video. I tried to get one in today as well. And yeah, you can join in our main chat there. There's a wealth of information. Thank you all kindly for being here. Thank you, basically, Truth Warrior, again, for all of your back end work. And PJ, want to thank you for all of your work on the Discord. So, with that, until I see you again, my friends, stay free.